Someone recently left a comment on my Playdate love letter suggesting that I was a grifter for praising the Playdate for its lack of backlit screen while also having videos where I am adding backlit screens to Game Boy Colors and Game Boy Advance. Now, aside from the fact that I think this grift would be amazing, can you imagine if every time someone added an IPS screen to their Game Boy, I got paid? Now, whether they were being purposefully obtuse or they had never seen either of these screens in real life, I did let them know that I would in fact kill for an RLCD screen like the one in the Playdate to exist in a Game Boy. I'm your cool Uncle Marissa, and we finally have an RLCD screen for the Game Boy, and I didn't have to kill anyone for it. So if you've never seen the Playdate, you may be unfamiliar with an RLCD screen. RLCD screens are reflective LCD screens. They're screens that are designed to look just as crisp and beautiful in good light that we have from the sun, from artificial light, as a backlit screen, but without things like blue light, with better battery life, and faster refresh rate than, say, e-ink, which is also a crisp, often not backlit screen technology. And this is why the Playdate is such a visually stunning display. It is crisp, it can play fast games, the battery life is really good, and it's just such a unique display that can't compete with LCD screens that don't have a light source. And this is where Drew comes in. Drew is a wonderful part of the Game Boy modding community, also known as Bytendo, but he did a ton of research trying to get this RLCD screen into a Game Boy. That is one of the original Game Boys that only presented monotone palettes. And this is absolutely no small feat. Initially, he wanted it for the Game Boy Pocket. However, there are only so many RLCD screens available on the market for a small batch creator, and only so many that are the correct resolution. So he managed to find one, which is the correct resolution, is a little bit funky shaped, but with the driver board he has developed, it is able to adjust to the display of the DMG. And that, my friends, is how I, notorious DMG hater, now have and enjoy, as much as I can, this chunky brick of a handheld. Now, if you're watching this video on an ancient gaming handheld, then I am going to presume that you are a bit of a data hoarder, like me. Maybe you're saving your game backups to Dropbox, and then the ROM hacks that you've gotten off Ko-fi are sitting in your email inbox, and the itch.io games that you've bought, those are also in your email inbox, and then the game guide scans that you have to go along with everything that you found on Reddit, you just save those on Google Drive, and everything is kind of everywhere. Now, that's all well and good until you actually want to play the game and you have no idea where to find everything that you saved, and that is where today's sponsor, Dockio, comes in. Dockio can help us digital collectors. Dockio connects all major cloud storage platforms as well as your email attachments so you can view them all in one place. Dockio Smart AI can distinguish between different file types and sort them for you based on categories, activities, and basic tags, which you can also streamline further by customizing them yourself. And you can use the search bar, which has an extensive list of search filters to look for your files regardless of where they are stored. I've personally been using Dockio to organize all of my sponsor emails and materials because between Drive, Gmail, and various titles, it can get overwhelming. If you'd like to clean up your digital clutter, visit trydockio.com/yourcooluncle and use my code yourcooluncle to get your first month free. That's less time searching and more time playing. Now, let's get back to this screen. The first time I saw this screen shared by Drew, I was absolutely blown away. It is so pretty. It is so crisp and just the dithering is beautiful. Everything is so beautiful. And it's obviously not the exact same screen the Playdate uses, but it has that same crispness, that same gorgeous look in the light. And I was so excited to give it a try myself. And I don't like the DMG. I don't. It's big. It takes so many batteries. It's kind of ugly. It's just, But if that's the only way we're gonna get this gorgeous screen, then so be it. And I know a lot of people associate the green palette with the DMG, which adds to why it makes more sense that Drew initially wanted to do this for the Game Boy Pocket, which is a grayscale palette. But it honestly, to me, I don't have that nostalgia for the DMG, but even still, it's so good. Because there's only so many ways that you can advance the current technology of replacement screens for these old handhelds. The pixel density, the screen technology, the levels of brightness, any customization sometimes, like Bytendo coming out with desaturation available. But it's like a pretty limited space to navigate in, and so I really commend Drew on going to do something that most smaller modders don't usually do, but also something that kind of is not what one would immediately think of when one would think of a upgraded screen, because this technology, I feel like it's still relatively well hidden. I think the Playdate is the main way people know that the RLCD screen exists, and I too did not realize it was called an RLCD screen until fairly recently as well. I was just like, the Playdate screen, and before that I even made the mistake of thinking it was an e-ink screen. Very embarrassing. It's not e-ink, neither is this. So how is this RLCD screen implemented for this display? So it is a 1-bit monochromatic display, again, like the Playdate, and similar to the Playdate, it emulates grayscale through the use of dithering, which is really visually pleasing. It's 2x integer scaled, and it has a refresh rate of 60 Hertz, if that means anything to you. It has about 2 frames of lag for the speedrunners out there, I guess, but apparently that is the same case with aftermarket DMG IPS kits as well. So many 3-letter acronyms. But overall, this screen, and I would hope the IPS kits as well, have a faster pixel response than the original DMG. That screen was rough. So what do you need to make it? You need a DMG. It's very unfortunate, but you do. And something I found out is that the DMG aftermarket shell offerings are nowhere near as robust as that of Game Boy Color and Game Boy Advance, even Game Boy Pocket. So there are very limited options. So if you have a good quality shell already, I would hang on to that. Mine was bad. It was really bad. I'm so used to kind of ordering, junk off Japanese secondhand markets and then getting something quite pristine, and this was bad. This was stinky, smelly bad. And so I kind of just had the board, and even then I ended up having to replace the power switch, which they don't sell replacement power switches for the DMG. However, I did find a part that was recommended to me on Mouser, and it just needs a couple of legs snipped off, a little bit of pulling the tabs, and it fits absolutely perfectly. You just need to trim the plastic switch as well, and I will leave that in the description, and also for anyone who might need a replacement, because mine was rusted to beyond saving. Also, just note that if you do use an OEM shell, you will need to trim it. It uses the same trim as the IPS kits, so that's something to think about. You also need a power board, a third-party power board, aftermarket power board, as that is what is needed to drive this screen. The 2 options that we have that I recommend are either Bucket Mouse's power board for the DMG Color, it works on the regular DMG as well, or Froggo Customs DMG power board, which also comes with a power indicator, which I love his power indicators, and they need to go in every single Game Boy I own. Next, you will need the button board and the accompanying FFC ribbon for an IPS kit. Bytendo has this, and so does funny playing. If you're having trouble finding the button board and the ribbon cable, I have linked a shop on AliExpress that does sell it. However, I can say that High-Speedido is very good with selling you parts. So if you end up going with them, you just need to send them a message and they will arrange a listing for you so you don't have to buy a new display that you're not going to use. You also need to buy the screen. It is a sharp panel and you can buy it off AliExpress as well, and it is a very delicate panel, so it is recommended that you treat it with care upon receipt and installation. So what's included in the kit? Most importantly, the driver PCB and the debug board. So the debug board is just there so that you can make sure that it is working, and the driver board is the brains of the operation that makes everything work together and is powered by an RP2040. Who isn't these days? I might be. I don't know. I haven't checked. It comes with a ribbon cable to connect it to the button board, and it comes with a mounting bracket. The mounting bracket is very ingeniously designed. He's designed it so well, like the screen fit perfectly in it and the mounting bracket fit perfectly in the DMG shell. Beautiful. Now the thing about the bracket though is that if you use a clear shell and you get a really neat color, like you can use it to get a pop of color because you can't see the bracket through the viewing screen of the DMG, even though the screen is smaller than the original screen. But I've seen a couple of builds in transparent shells and you can see that honeycomb and it's wow. And once you've acquired all of this, you are set to go. With our screwdrivers in hand and all of our parts and our crusty DMG board, let's go and install this screen and see how easy it is. Taking a look at our materials, so this is the button board and original LCD. We don't need this. You can throw it away, you can keep it. This board we do need. This is our replacement funny playing button board and it comes with a ribbon cable. This is our replacement power board from Froggo Customs. Here's our sharp display, the 3D printed bracket, and the little one's the debug board. The big one is the driver board. The first thing we want to get out of the way is installing the new power board. Now, what you can do is simply desolder the wires from the power board and install the new power board. But because this board is so gross, I feel like removing the wires and cleaning and then reinstalling them would be quite helpful. But I'm also doing it in a very lazy way. The best way to do this would be to use some helping hands, hold it up, and then use a solder sucker on the through-hole components. Ironically, my laziness absolutely does not pay off, given I have to use a solder sucker to empty the holes anyway. Look at that Q-tip. That is so gross. Oh my god. I also removed the wires from the old power board and I'm going to reuse them with the new power board. You can use new wires or reuse the old ones. It really doesn't matter. First, we need to make sure the screen is working correctly. We connect it to the driver board and then we connect the debug board to the driver board with the thinner FFC connector. As you can see, the white side is up and the side with text on it is facing down where we can't see it. Then we connect the debug board to a USB-A to USB-C cable, and you should see some noise followed by a clear square frame of display, and that means that your driver board and screen are working as intended. Since our display is good, we can prep our shell. Because I have an IPS ready shell, I only need to cut off the 2 posts on the top with some flush cutters and we are all good. Now to prepare the bracket for the display. This bracket is made pretty immaculately, so you don't have to worry about forcing anything in. We're going to take some cell phone repair tape, double-sided tape, and put some on the top and some on the bottom. This will be to help hold the display in place. Make sure you are doing this on the correct side as well. You'll know it's the correct side because there is a bit of an indent on this side, which allows the display to sit. Remove the protective film from the back of the screen, not the front. And you can see there's an indent in the bracket for the ribbon cable from the screen, and that will help you know whether you are placing it the correct way. I'm aligning the top first, and then I'm able to drop it down and gently touch the top and bottom where the adhesive is to make sure that it sticks. From here, we're going to be turning the display upside down, so get a soft microfiber cloth in order to protect the front. Attach the driver board to the ribbon cable. And then just fold the driver board over onto the back and it fits in place absolutely perfectly. Again, this is just such a well-designed bracket. Now, like with every other display, I want to make sure that it actually works. So I'm going to put everything together that needs to go into the back shell in order for it to receive power. The display is going to go into the button board with the silver fingers up. And then we need to use this black ribbon cable that came with the button board to attach it to the main board. These ribbon cables are so stressful because they don't have a lock-unlock mechanism in the connector. You just have to push them in. But the ends are quite stiff, so you do have something to grip onto and push. Just make sure it's correctly aligned so you don't damage it. And hopefully this is a good look at how each ribbon cable is oriented. Then we can fold all of these boards together, so many boards in the DMG, in order to put them in the back shell. I totally have 6 batteries here because I was like, oh, what if 2 of them are dead? Not because I thought the DMG takes 6 batteries. But great, that looks good. So we can go ahead and move forward with putting this mod together. So this bracket also just drops in so perfectly. The top 2 posts loop over the screw posts and the bottom 2 over the bottom screw holes that you'll screw through the button board into. If you're using Froggo Customs power board, make sure you do remove the LED on the button board with a soldering iron so you can stick on the ribbon cable that he includes with the LEDs. I'm just putting some Kapton tape on it just to play it safe with any shorts. There is an adhesive underneath the LEDs on Froggo's power board, so you need to remove that and stick it on. Between this being the first time I was inside a DMG and Froggo not yet having instructions for the DMG power board, I had quite an adventure. But there is a fold on the edge of the LED indicator ribbon, and that just goes over the back. I also will need to replace my speaker eventually. This is a Gameboy Color speaker. It works fine, but it's a little wibbly wobbly. The button board takes so many screws, so many. This one and the one directly to the left of it here are good to screw in because you're keeping the display in place. Otherwise, I'm just gonna screw in other parts that I feel like are best for the structural integrity. Insert the other side of the ribbon cable into the power board. And then the power board sits in the side of the back shell. There's little indentations for it, so you should have no problem figuring that out. A mighty number of screws on the DMG. The soundboard screws into the back shell. Two screws on the back shell board. Also, hot tip, I was having a nightmare of a time getting this sandwich together, and I really thought I had inserted something wrong, especially with all of these auxiliary boards, but it turned out that one of the posts in the shell that is supposed to go through the back of the PCB was not cast correctly or something, and I just snipped it off. Finally, you can put together your back shell and your battery tabs if they fell out on the way. And let's take a look with an actual game. Isn't that gorgeous? My thoughts on it. I feel like I've already shared my thoughts on the screen. I think it's incredible. I think it's amazing that in terms of performance, it's comparable to IPS kits. I think that it has this nostalgic look to it by not being backlit or frontlit. And it's just really beautiful. And I feel like some games are going to especially stand out on it more than others, especially given that, you know, we have the color palettes with the Game Boy Color. Some games look really good with those color palettes, and it would be a shame not to use them, but I think looking at them both ways sometimes can be fun. Seeing Pokemon Yellow on this was really fun, but at the same time, a game like Picross I feel like would be so at home with this display. In terms of my feelings about the DMG itself, I don't know if they've changed. I think it's cute. I think I did a good job with the color scheme. Not exactly straying from my wheelhouse, but very cute. But I actually did not expect the body to be glossy. I thought I was getting like a matte white. I don't mind it too much, but yeah, it's a lot. It's heavy, and I can't say it feels great in my hands. It does feel like holding a brick with buttons on it. I understand that these design choices were kind of dictated by necessity, but I will never understand you guys who love the DMG. I mean, I guess it does make sense if you have giant hands, huh? And it's pretty heavy too. It's crazy. But I will be playing it just to experience the screen until either Drew becomes immeasurably rich and can produce custom displays for the Pocket, or someone else makes a display that just happens to be the right size and resolution to use in the Pocket. But no, I'm sorry guys, I am not a DMG convert. I do have to say though that, especially what I said about some games having a Game Boy Color palette that is kind of unmissable, I am very curious what some Game Boy games are that you think I should play, because I have a few, but aside from the big names, you know, yeah, I have Pokemon Yellow, I have Super Mario Land, I have Kirby, but any ones that are not even hidden gems, just like they're fun and people don't usually talk about them. For me, I currently in this have Pocket Bomberman. I'm also very fond of Final Fantasy Legend in terms of original Game Boy games, but yeah, a lot of them have not aged well and are harder to get into, so definitely a slimmer library. I think some homebrew games and modern Game Boy games would be really neat to play on this as well, but I'm looking forward to your suggestions. If you're interested in doing this mod yourself, I have linked all of the materials that you need to acquire yourself, as well as the link to Drew's Ko-fi, where you can buy the kit from him. A huge thank you to Docu for sponsoring this video. Thank you so much to my Ko-fi supporters. If you subscribe to my Ko-fi, you can get access to videos that I don't post here, such as monthly game reviews, blog posts about smaller mods, and just random tidbits like that, and it also immensely helps the channel. I am also making a movie this summer, so if that's more up your alley, or if it's something you're interested in checking out, please check out the link in the description. It's my first movie that I am making as opposed to just being in, and I'm very lucky to have a pretty cool team behind it. I'm very excited to see how it comes together, but movies are really expensive no matter how small they are. Somehow, as of filming this video, have raised about $900, which it's only been up for a few days. So I'm absolutely blown away by the support, and I hope it's something that all of you will enjoy or find intriguing. Thank you so much for watching to the end. And don't forget that you are always welcome at Cool Uncle's house. I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.